The US economy seems to be contracting as a slew of American businesses are cutting labor costs due to lower revenues than expected, diminishing profits, and coupled with rising labor costs. Of course, that's according to Business Insider, who works for the elites, who works for the same people who are saying that they now have to cut labor costs due to business being slow. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, or good morning, whatever time it is in the world. This is the Neoliberal Round podcast. I'm Ronaldo McKenzie, and with me is
Dante Nelson.
And today we discuss U.S. businesses are laying off workers as they race to keep COVID-type revenues and supernormal profits. And by the way, and the word race is important, as they race, and I'm going to talk about that later on as I continue the discussion talking about this issue. It's a very important issue because I make some very important points. One of the points that you have to listen to is I say to you, however, real wages are falling due to rising inflation, so on and so forth. Yet they're saying, I make the very, very economic and consumer points I make in this show today. But you were asking a question just before we go into it. You were asking me a question. Why do you think? What was the question? Why do you think you should?
No, because my mind it was still wrapped around when the pandemic had arisen and we went through that whole process, and it's still. We're still getting different type of strings, but when they were giving out the stimulus, did you think what their motive was by doing that before they had sent it out?
Well, I mean, people weren't working because of COVID, so. And businesses were losing money because because of COVID, people had to close down, and so people got money to stay afloat. But I'm going to talk about this. I mean, it operating costs. Many businesses never had much operating costs but they still got COVID money, and businesses got COVID money as well to keep them afloat, especially the big bit, not the mom and pop store, the bigger one. Many of them probably got, and many of the stores were robbed. And so insurance money, coupled with what they get from stimulus, they got insurance money from. We won't talk about that. They might say that's conspiracy or heresy. But of course, it's not conspiracy. Major stores insuring against theft and robbery. Okay.
Right. I understand that.
And of course, but I'm going to make a very important point further on in this. If you listen to the coming up next, we delve into it, and we also delve into the article from U.S. Business, from the Business Insider article. But we talk some more, and we also mention some of the big top companies that's laying off. So you have to listen to it. But I make towards the end of the show, I make a point. I said, when wages are stagnant and consumer confidence low, then your business will slow. That's the math. Yet businesses want to defy math and transplant it with their voodoo brand. And I make that very important point. And I conclude with something very, very important right after that, which I won't spoil it and say it here, but you have to listen to the entire show. The entire show. Dante, you have to listen to the entire show.
Yes.
It's deep. A lot of meat, as usual.
A lot of things to pick up on,
and it's economic. This is an economic analysis from a philosophical and interdisciplinary mind. But this is deep. This is very important. It's a very important podcast. Please listen to the arguments that I present as it relates to the commentary, as it relates to U.S. businesses, and I talk about the fact that whether or not analysts are looking at it properly, or the people, and how we're looking at it. It has to be done. It has to be looked at metaphysically.
Or are they? And what was their strategy?
I was just about to say that. Probably it's a strategy. Maybe it's strategic.
What was their strategy?
But
providing help and supporting.
But what we know now is that. But the fact of the matter is that businesses are slowing. Businesses are. They said that they are slow. Businesses are saying that they are slowing down. And the fact of the matter is that they're not making the money that they made during COVID. And so, of course, when you compare that with what they're making now, of course, but the benchmark is wrong. It's what COVID presents as a very delicate situation. So how you do your reporting as it relates to how you and your benchmarking is very important. But that's what's coming up next on the Neoliberal Wrong podcast. We delve into the story, we share some more of the report, and we make some very important, insightful statements and comments. This is the Neoliberal Wrong podcast, brought to you by and sponsored by Anchor.fm by Spotify. We'll be right back after these messages. Yes?
Yes.
Welcome back to the episode. By the way, we're doing a poll. On the Spotify platform. It's also going to be on Twitter, and then on Reddit. Twitter, Ronaldo McKenzie, or the Neoliberal Code, or you can go on Reddit and you'll see this poll. The poll, and there's also a poll on Spotify platform. The poll is asks the question: why are many major U.S. businesses laying off their workers? And we have several options. You can choose one, or you can choose several. 1, slow in business, or is it 2, rising labor costs? 3, to outduel the competition in earnings. 4, trying to maintain pandemic-type revenues. 5, all of the above or other. Again, we're doing a poll, and the poll question is, and this is the poll question: why are many major U.S. businesses laying off their workers? And this is these are the options or the choices that you have. 1, slow in businesses, or slow in business. 2, rising labor costs. 3, to outduel the competition in earnings. 4, trying to maintain pandemic-type revenues. 5, 1 is slow in business. 2 is rising labor costs. 3 is to outduel the competition in earnings. 4 is trying to maintain pandemic-type revenues. 5 is all of the above, and 6 was other. So I was right. And so you can participate. Please visit us. Visit the Spotify platform and over to community, and you'll see the poll. But we will also have it at theneoliberal.com and ronaldocmckenzie.com. This is the Neoliberal Run Podcast. We'll be right back after this. The economy seems to be contracting as a slew of American businesses are cutting costs due to lower revenues and diminishing profits, and coupled with rising labor costs. Let me read it again. The US economy seems to be contracting as a slew of American businesses are cutting labor costs due to lower revenues than expected, diminishing profits, and coupled with rising labor costs. Of course, that's according to Business Insider, who works for the elites, who works for the same people who are saying that they now have to cut labor costs due to business being slow. But the article says says a wave of layoffs is sweeping the US, and the article provides some major companies that have announced cuts so far, from Twitter to Peloton. So a wave of layoffs has swept across American businesses in 2022. The cuts stem from slower business growth paired with rising labor costs. That's according to the article. Of course, the article says slower business growth, but of course, it's not just slower business growth. It's lower than expected revenues and diminishing profits. Okay? They want to make supernormal profit. They're not making that. They want to make more. Businesses want to make more. And we're going to talk some more about that. And of course, the layoffs according to the article, span across industries from mortgage lending to digital payment processing. Of course, the article said, and we all know the article suggests that Twitter is the latest high-profile company to get hit with layoffs this year after its new owner, Elon Musk, reportedly ordered a 25% headcount reduction. In fact, I understand from some reports. I think it was from MSN, and they have a poll going. There's a poll on Fox, MSN and Fox, I believe, and they are asking, do you think Elon Musk is what kind of leader do you think leader or business leader is Elon Musk? And they're asking that question. Of course, I guess as it relates to Twitter, because some employees at Twitter are reporting that they have been at work since Friday because of new expectations or some demands that Elon Musk is placing on them. And not only that, he plans to cut labor. But however, there are some expectations, and they are probably trying to meet those expectations. So I understand that people have to be sleeping overnight. Probably they're trying to work hard to demonstrate why Mr. Musk shouldn't fire them. But that's not what this is about, though. The article is not about Elon Musk and whether or not he's a good leader. I mean, I don't know if he's a good leader. He just took over Twitter. He had certain expectations. They're trying to meet those expectations. I don't think he told people to stay all night and to be working all night. I mean, what about people working remotely? What about that? If people want, okay, I mean, I'm not but that's for a different story. I'm not understanding what's going on. What's the big issue here is why they're doing a poll so quickly. I mean, he just took over Twitter. I'm not sure what. And then again, if people are reacting to his expectations, and he might set this is what he requires, and people are I'm not understand what's going on there, but the latest high-profile company they're saying that is going to be cutting is that's hit with layoffs this year. Is Twitter, and Elon Musk has reportedly ordered a 25% headcount reduction. Further, major American businesses have picked up the pace of firing in 2022. Peloton has laid off thousands of employees this year. Real estate firm Remax slashed 17%. Peloton laid off several thousands of people, and real estate firm Remax, the real estate firm Remax slashed 17% of its workforce. Even traditionally layoff-resistant companies like Netflix have made cuts. And now companies that saw a pandemic-era boom, like Shopify, are cutting hundreds of jobs. I mean, these people make money during the pandemic. They make hundreds of thousands of dollars during the pandemic. And now they're not making pandemic money. They're not making as much money after the pandemic. In fact, nobody's making as much money that they're making during the pandemic. Okay? But these people aren't making these people aren't making as much money. But they think that they should be making much money. They're not, they have received, so there's been a dip in profit since COVID. So because of that, they're saying, oh, business is slowing because we're not at will. But because the way in which, because companies are short-sighted or myopic, or they're not looking at it macroscopically. They're not looking at it rationally. They're not looking at, they are saying businesses are slowing because we're no longer in the pandemic. Because they're not making the money that they used to make. Because guess what? It's no longer people. It's after the pandemic. They don't have the revenue that they were getting stem from some of the stimulus money that they had received, and people were receiving stimuluses and they were spending money. They were spending so much. I said in an article last week that part of the inflation stems from the fact that there was too much money chasing too few goods. Nobody was working as much, and all the stimulus money was being given to people. Most of it to rich billionaires and to the top companies, who are reporting high profits with very little operating costs. Nobody was in the very little operating costs during COVID, and now the operating costs have gone up, and they don't have as much money because, and of course, I am not understanding these companies at all. People need to put these things into perspective, and I don't think they have put this into perspective. Now, let me continue. The article, the Business Insider article continues. The Business Insider article says that the reason for these layoffs broadly is twofold. Business growth is slowing, while labor costs are increasing. The combination is causing American companies across a variety of industries to slash headcount. And the Business Insider article provides some of the other examples. And I'm saying to you, however, real wages, first of all, that's a lie. That's a lie. Okay? Not to lie. The particular article does not, and business analysts are not looking at it properly. They need to put this into perspective. Businesses are slowing because they're not making the money that they used to make during the pandemic. But please remember that now real wages are falling due to rising inflation. And we said that inflation is rising. Why? Because there was too much money chasing too few goods. Because during pandemic, nobody was really working, and they were receiving, and there was all this money with little. And because of the COVID, it affected shipping and distribution, which affected supply. So all this money in the economy, okay, and all this money and very little supply, very little. Okay, and there was too much money. There was a glut in the system. So not a glut. There was after a while there was a supply problem, so that caused inflation to rise. A rise in prices, rise in inflation, and of course, correspondingly, median income is also falling. Yet, businesses are downsizing and are faulting labor, and of course, labor, who has always been the scapegoat and the victim of capitalists seeking supernormal profits while enjoying significant increases in their incomes and net worth. In fact, The BLS, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics shows that since 2020, and we did an article in the neoliberal.com and in ronaldocmckenzie.com, I believe, and also not the last podcast, but the podcast before the last one. So we had a talking about this as we look at St. Louis and the way and the increase in crime and violence, and looking at the economy and so on and so forth. The BLS shows that since 2020, there's been a steep rise in incomes and net worth in people within the 50th to the 99th percentile, especially those at the top 1%, the top 10%. So that income inequality has reached its highest in years, registering a Gini of nearly 1.0. I studied Gini, and of course Gini coefficient is easy for you to calculate the Gini coefficient. Gini coefficient, as we said during some podcasts ago, studies income inequality or levels of income inequality within societies. We looked at incomes of people at the top and those at the bottom and in between. Okay, and you divide those at the bottom into those at the top. And you can, if you look at the graph that we showed some time ago, and we're going to do an article after this podcast, and you can go to theneoliberal.com and see this article, and probably we might have links to it on LinkedIn and so on. And we may have a graph showing, and we did an article that looks at the Gini. But if you look at the graph showing income between from 2020 to 2022, there have been no income for those at the bottom and in the middle. It has been stagnant, in fact, and it's not real income, net income. I mean, income that does not take into consideration inflation, but real wages have fallen, while at the top the net worth has grown significantly. So it's quite unusual that businesses are now saying that they have to cut labor costs due to rising due to rising costs and lowering profits, as if labor costs is driving their loss and driving slowing business. If it is labor, and let's say if it's labor, let's say they're right, it's part of the problem that they're part of the problem of slowing business, or lowering or lower than expected revenues is coming from rising labor costs, of course, because the young people and people who are working now are demanding higher wages. Okay, those are the people that they have to deal with now. The young people, they want money. Okay, but people are demanding more, and in fact, labor seems to be carrying the bully pulpit these days. But this is, I'm making a point here. So if it is labor that is driving up costs, I'm telling you that it is it's the top level labor and executives who are demanding higher salaries and wages and bonuses that's driving up labor costs. Nevertheless, okay, but I'm telling you, when they cut, they're cutting those in the middle. They're not cutting people at the top first, they're cutting those at the bottom. And it's not the people at the bottom that's driving up the wages, really. It's those at the top. The top level workers, executives and so on. And specialists. Nevertheless, even beyond that, in fact, not nevertheless, but even beyond that, moreover, even beyond that, the competition between and among billionaires, those at the top, the people at the top, that is what is driving up labor costs. If you look at Elon Musk, Elon Musk is now the richest man in the world. Before it was Jeff Bezos, and these very wealthy tech companies, Facebook and so on, and all the owners of these big tech companies and Netflix and so on, they are competing for dominance and wealth, and they are competing against each other to be number one, to be the wealthiest, to be the richest, the most profitable in the world. Big companies, big tech companies, and these major companies, they want to make more than what they are already making. And many were even, and many of these companies were bailed out during COVID and profited greatly. As reports by the Treasury and by many economists and news agencies suggested that the rich got richer and benefited more than the needy during COVID. In fact, and everybody know that. And there was and in fact, when President Biden became president, the stimulus package, the third stimulus package that they gave and that he signed, he put a caveat that says that banks should give poor people the money first. And in fact, they came up with a system so to try to ensure that banks don't circumvent that, so that loans and so on reach businesses and money reach businesses and people. But guess what? But still, they found their way around it, because many small businesses couldn't even. They were requiring documentations that many of these small businesses and people in communities couldn't provide. But the fact of the matter is, irrespective of what President Biden tried to do with the third stimulus, it still went to the rich people. But what we know is that they benefited. Many received stimulus. And further, companies are cutting labor, but now require less people to do more with the same wages and salaries. Furthermore, companies are cutting labor, but now require less people to do more with the same amount of money that they're paying these people. It's quite laughable. And this is true because I used to be I used to be an HR manager at a company, a major company in the US. A major retail company in the US, one of the top retail companies, high-level retail companies. And they were cutting left, right, and center. And they cut, and I had a secretary. And then they were cutting, and all of a sudden I had one secretary that was serving between myself and the executive director, and to do other stuff. And I was supposed to hire 400 people and manage 400 people as an HR manager. I was received the same amount of money, and work the same amount of hours, or I'll probably work more, but they don't care about that. Or you still work this, or they don't want to pay you overtime, so you have to work. You still work. You're still supposed to work only 50 hours, or 40 plus 10 hours, 50 hours. But still meet certain standards and certain goals at the end of the week that 10 or 15 people used to do. I mean, it's quite laughable. It's quite laughable. I just don't understand. But capitalists and capitalists have always sought profit at any cost, even if it means enslaving a whole race, a whole nation of people. And of course, they've done it before. Even if it means enslaving a whole nation or race of people, as they race against each other. They race against each other. Now, if truth be told, businesses may be slowing. Businesses may be slowing. If truth be told, businesses may be slowing because of rising inflation and falling median incomes and wealth. And just so you know, it's the middle. It's people in the middle. It's the working class people that drives and generate business and profit. But not when their wages have fallen. Not when their wages have fallen. Absolutely not. If if you are a business owner, let me tell you, if you want to generate business, pay your labor well so that they can buy your stuff. Pay your labor well so that they can buy your stuff. When wages are stagnant and consumer confidence low, then your business will slow. Again, let me say that when wages are stagnant, consumer confidence low, then your business will slow. That's the math. Yet businesses want to define math and transplant it with their voodoo brand, thinking that cutting staff and keeping wages down will help to drive business and profit. Let me conclude this by saying, let me end by saying this point. By saying this, societies with well-paid people benefit from an active business environment that is stable and long-lasting. Just look at some of the Scandinavian countries, and I keep referring to them. Look at Singapore. Singapore is a special case though, because it's not necessarily a capitalist country. It's the situation in Singapore is absolutely unique and different. We'll have to have a different discussion about that. So let's remove them from the example for now. We will have this particular article, this particular discussion, this particular presentation on the podcast today is going to be available sometime this week, probably tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, in theneoliberal.com, and also probably, and you can also find excerpts of it in LinkedIn in the Neoliberal Commentary. Subscribe to the Neoliberal Corporation's Neoliberal Post. You can go to theneoliberal.com, or you could also subscribe to this podcast at anchor.fm/theneoliberal for free, or you can subscribe to this show on any stream that you listen to, Amazon, the Audible. We're on the Audible as well, and we are also on of course Spotify and Anchor, which is our main platforms. They are the one that sponsor this show, and we thank them. We're also on Podvine and iHeartRadio and several other platforms. And we want to thank you. And we want to special shout out to Winston McKenzie and to Kenneth O'Connor, who have been with us for several months supporting the show. They support us. They donate to the show, and we thank them for their monetary donations to the show. We really appreciate them, and it is because of people like them where we are able to continue to provide this show for free. And we provide, and the news and the commentary that we provide are well thought out commentary that is based in, and that's well researched, and that is academic, and involves academic rigor. Because your host, yours truly, and one of the producers here, yours truly, of course, spend a lot of time doing research on some of these very same issues while I'm at Georgetown University, working on my doctoral program. Some of these discussions are some of the discussions that we discuss during the halls of academia, and some of the discussions are some of the discussions we have with analysts and those persons who work closely with us and who partner with us. Now, just so you know, the neoliberal.com, we have an improved website. You go to the neoliberal.com, it's much better. We realized that, we're still working on several of the things that we offer. And just so you know, we provide business solutions through our ANTS Business Solutions. You can go to the neoliberal.com and check out all that we have to offer. And please remember to get your copy of Neoliberalism. And coming up at the end of this month or towards December is my next book, Neoliberalism or Neoliberal Reconsidered. The Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered. This is the Neoliberal Round podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the show, and share it with your friend and your family. And please let us know how we're doing. Give us a feedback and like the show. I'm Ronaldo McKenzie. Walker.